Good morning, everyone. So, any questions from yesterday's session regarding IAM, the topics what we have discussed about groups, policies, types of policies?
Hey, hi Sudham.
Yep. Hi.
Sudham, I can see that one accountant is there, right? So can we switch a role also here?
That,
Suppose I want to go with another account ID and I want to see that.
that is switch account. It is possible to do.
Okay,
But for now, that is not topic. When I talk about roles in detail, you will be understanding how we can switch from one account to another account with the same credentials. No need to create another credentials.
okay,
That is called as role-based access, or we can call it as cross-account access.
So when I created the policy, if I'm an admin, I was able to create, but if I'm normal user, I'm not able to create. Is that a just also supposed to, right?
Maybe it depends what are the permission you have given. Based on that, you can, it will let you know whether you can see this particular policies or not. If you are not given the enough permissions for that particular user, you can't see the policies, that is for sure.
When I created, when I clicked on the create policy, that's when it said like it's not create the policy. So I had to go back and log in again
Yeah.
and then I was able.
Okay, so today let us see what is inline policy. If you remember, yesterday I have told you there are three type policies. One is AWS managed policy. I've told you what is the limitations we have, where you can say if you select this, you don't see even delete option. You can see. But if I select any customer managed policy, for example, if I want to delete this, I can select and I can say delete. Okay. It's as simple as that. Now, coming back to the actual point, let us understand what is inline policy. In this regard, just I want to go back to this user. So, yeah, I've not attached any policies. He's part of the group. That's fine. Now, let me log into it through Edge browser. I hope it is valid. Yes. Now I have logged in as way to tech stack IAM user. If I try to access any service, if the permissions are allowed to me, I'll be able to see the information. Since I don't have any policies that are attached to this user, either through group or direct access. There are two things, right? Either you will get the permissions from the group since you are part of the group, or maybe the permissions are directly assigned to your user. Nothing is there right now because there is no policy attached to the group, as well as there is no policy that is attached to the user as well. Now, sometimes there could be a requirement where, before that, I'll discuss one point whether it is AWS managed policy or customer managed policy. For example, let me draw a picture of it. For example, whether you have AWS managed policy, C, or customer managed policy. Since the functionality is same, I'm writing in a box. Okay, AWS managed policy or customer managed policy. We can attach it to the multiple users. Okay, it's possible. For example, let's say user one, let us say you have user one, let's say user two, and user 3. Okay. Now you can attach the same policy to multiple users. What does it mean? One to many or many to one. What does it mean? One user can have multiple policies. One policy can be attached to multiple users. Is this statement clear? Or any confusion part in this?
So basically, is it in user policy can be attached to many users, right?
Yes. I mean to say, where it is AWS managed policy or customer managed policy. If I attach a policy to a user, can I attach the same policy to another user? Yes, we can. It is possible. Okay. Even it applies to the same as a group as well. The same policy, I can attach it to multiple groups. Let us say group 1, group 2, group 3, like that. Just an understanding purpose. Group 3. Now I have a policy. I've already attached it to one group. Can I attach it to another group? Yes, it is possible. Same sentence. One policy can be attached to multiple groups or users. It can be a combination of both as well. Understand? It can be a combination of users. It can be a combination of groups or both of them. One policy can be attached to multiple identities. So technically these are called as, sorry, group is not called identity. Forget about that word. So either it could be attached to users and groups. And one user or one group can have multiple policies. As I told and I have shown as well. One user or one group can have more than one policy. So one to many, many to one. It is possible. A simple way to understand, or many to one. Any questions in this regard? If no, I'll go to the next sentence. Okay. Now, yes. Okay. Now I have created one policy. For example, I'm saying how I will create that policy, what type of policy it is, we'll discuss now. Now I have created one policy. Now it is called as inline policy. We will understand now in detailed way. Now I have created one policy. It is created under one user. Remember this inline policy, you cannot manage it from here. That is the first thing. Okay. Second thing, if you want to create an inline policy, first you have to decide whether you want to create it for user 1 or user 2 or user 3 or group 1, 2, 3. First you have to decide that. Because if I need to create inline policy, let us have decided for way to tech stack user. First I have to go to users resource. Under that I have to see the way to tech stack resource. There you can see a tab called permissions for that particular user. Under the drop down list, we will see create inline policy. You will see option only here. Or if you are planning to attach it to the group, you have to go to groups, select the group. Under the permissions tab, here we can see create inline policy. Okay. So what does the behavior? So we have seen where we can create an inline policy, where we cannot manage an inline policy. Now, why it is showing only under that particular specific resource? Because what are the inline policy you create, it will be binded only to that particular user. Can I attach it to another user? No, you can't. Okay. Inline policy will be binded to only one single resource. It cannot be shared to multiple resources like your AWS managed policy and customer managed policy. It is one-to-one mapping. One-to-one. It is not one-to-many. Because sometimes there could be a requirement in your organization, okay, where I will create some temporary access that has to be binded only to that particular user. In that specific scenarios, under the specific exceptions, we will go to that particular inline policy. Creating a policy, it is the same. Either we can use visual editor or we can use a JSON format. The creation, the parameters, everything will be the same. But this policy will be binded to only that specific user or a specific group. Okay. Is this point clear as a theoretically?
Question here.
Yep.
So-
go ahead, please.
So in even that AWS managed policy, like the inline policy, you're saying one-to-one, but single user we can give the same also possible, right? One-to-one also possible for AWS also, right?
Yes, that is a default behavior. I can create one policy and attach it to the user. But
Okay,
here the
but-
advantage is tomorrow I want the same policy to another user, I can attach it. But here I've created one policy to one user. Can I use it to another user? If there is a requirement, no. You have to create another inline policy. In those conditions, which is the preferred one?
Okay.
This is the preferred one, right? Not this one.
Yeah.
So you have to
But
decide
if-
based on your requirement. But
Okay.
we have these features from AWS.
So, but if the group has multiple users, right? So how that inline policy will work?
No, this is like, yeah, this is only a single user level. That's what I'm saying. If these three users are part of group one, your inline policy is binded to only one user. It is not to everyone. And for example, you created an inline policy to this particular specific group. Okay, it is binded to only this group. You cannot attach this inline policy to another group. It's not possible. For example, I'm trying to create some inline policy for group one. I've already created, for example. Still, I say it is one-to-one mapping, obviously. See, here I'm not talking about the feature of this policy, functionality of the policy. What is it? This policy can be attached to multiple users, multiple groups, or combination of both of them. It doesn't mean that you can attach it to only one user or one group. But if you want that feature, you have to go for inline policy. You can attach it to one user or one group, but not to multiple users, multiple groups, or combination of both. It's not possible to do. It is a single independent resource. Is that answered your question or still confused? I'm hoping so, yes. So let's try to create one so that you will understand this concept. Now let me go back here for the way to tech stack user, add policies, create inline policy. Same, you can see the same page. You don't see any difference while creating inline policy or other policy types. Now I will go for visual editor. I would say IAM. I'll select only few options. Okay. Same. Yesterday we have selected. Today I just want to select list user, list roles, list groups, list policies, list policy versions, and then get group, get policy, get group policy, get user, get role. That's it. Fine. Now, here, do you want to attach it to all the resources or specific resource? If you want, you can specify it. Okay, it's up to you. Today, we are seeing additional option. Why? Because we have selected some action related to roles. That is the reason why. Okay. Yeah, that is sufficient. For now, today, I want to go for all resources and then say next. Finally, some name. Let us say demo policy for inline. I've created with this name and just say create. You see, still you are in the page of users. Under that, you are trying to create a policy. Once it's created, you can see it is visible here. What type of policy it is? Customer inline policy. We don't have anything like AWS inline policy. These policies, you are creating it. So it is customer inline policy and the type is inline. Now, can I attach this policy to another user or another group? I'm saying it's not possible.
But
Okay.
we can like that.
Sorry?
We can try add it to the other user, right?
How? Just tell me where is an option. When you create a policy here, it will not be visible here. For example, Okay, what is the name of that policy? Let me just
Customer
grab that.
in demo.
Demo policy. If I go here and search for it, where is that policy? If I need to attach it, first of all, I need to find out a policy here, right?
Okay.
This policy is only available under this particular user, and
Can
it
you
is
click on?
binded to only this user.
But what are the roles you're not able to see here, right? I mean, even when you click on the policy name, you're not able to see, right?
I clicked on the policy. You can see.
Okay, list policy get. Okay, got it.
Same feature will not get changed. Policy is a policy. There will be no new features that you will be seeing under policy. But the functionality of this policy is you can bind it to only one resource, not multiple resources.
Okay, got it.
Simple thing. Don't make it too complex. If you want a policy to be binded to only one specific resource, in future also I don't have any plan to attach it to any other resource, then go for inline policy. Okay. The problem with inline policy, another challenge is, as I told you, we cannot attach this policy to multiple resources. It is binded to only one specific resource. And one more thing is, if I select this and say remove, it will delete. Whereas in normal policies, it will get removed from that particular identity or a user or a group. Okay, from the resource, but the resource is not getting deleted. But here the policy will get deleted. That's a basic difference. So you have to decide whether to delete this policy or not when you're managing with customer inline policy. It's
So
a
can
rare
you?
case in the organizations we use inline policy. Rare case. Yeah, questions, please.
Yeah, you said like I mean, once we remove the policy, it automatically deleted, right? This
Yes.
is the.
I'll delete. Now, where I can see that policies? I can't see here.
Yeah.
As I said before. Now, where is that policy? Then again, you have to create.
Okay. Just a question, like, so in case if I have in a team, like somebody has deleted it, so we are able to recover it, this one, like.
No, we can't. We don't have anything like recycle bin here for this. That's the reason why we should not give privileges to the users, right? Everybody to delete.
Okay.
As part of security, you have to ensure who should have the permissions to create a policy, to delete the policies and all. That is so important. You cannot give this actions to everybody, right? What will happen? This is what it is. Maybe intentionally or unintentionally, they will delete the policy. But in the organizations, we don't do it from manually, right? Everything will be done through automation. So we will come to know in the review part what are the actions he's trying to do. Then we will reject that particular request. Simple. Got it, right?
Yeah.
If there is a process behind this, obviously everybody will come to know what you're trying to do. The next option that we have, roles, we will discuss as part of EC2, because there I have to show you how to launch EC2 instance. Initially, I thought of teaching now itself, but I see that you have to by heart that particular task. So I don't want that particular situation. So this particular topic, I will remember. I know what is covered, what is not covered. I'll remember that when I talk about EC2, the next topic after this. Then I will come back to this particular topic called roles, and I will explain you how this will work. Account to account and service to service. For theoretically to understand, here a user or a group wants to do some particular means wants to provide some particular permissions to the resources on your AWS. For that reason, we are using it. Sometimes what will happen in the AWS is one resource wants to talk to another resource. Example, I will tell you. You have a virtual machine in EC2, in AWS, which is called as EC2, the service name. EC2. It's nothing but creating virtual machines. For example, for now. Now, this particular EC2 instance wants to talk to some storage. Let us say there is a storage called S3 bucket.
Mhm.
The service name is S3, simple storage service. It is same like your Google Drive or OneDrive. So those are called as object storage. Technically, object storage. Only remember these 2 points. Now, this particular instance, which is nothing but AWS service, wants to talk to this particular another AWS service. This is not a human being, right? To access that service by using some dashboard or a console and all. There should be some programmatical access in the backend, or it should run some API call. Simple. Either it will run some REST API call or some programmatical access. Could be anything. For example, now REST API call. If I need to run some REST API call to do some actions on this S3 service, how will you provide a permissions? How will you provide authentication? Permissions, obviously, we know it is a policy. What about authentication? Without having authentication, you cannot do some actions, right? First of all, you have to authenticate. Then only we can perform some actions. How will you provide that authentication from service to service? These two services are part of AWS. In those conditions, we have to use roles. We have to use role. So you have to create a role. That role has to be attached to the EC2 instance, and you have to provide a permissions to do some actions on S3. So service to service access, if you want to provide authentication without storing any credentials on EC2 instance, the best approach is using roles. Okay, practically you will understand. Theoretically, just remember this particular point, whatever I have told. Anyway, I will repeat this. No need to worry. Just to give some heads up, like what is a role, why I'm not discussing right now. Since I want to give some justification, I'm explaining this concept. Okay, for that, you need to know at least what is EC2. Forget about S3. You need to know what is EC2, how to launch a EC2 instance. Okay, so you can't by heart that. So that's the reason why. So this topic will be covered next in the upcoming sessions. Next one is identity provider. Even this particular topic will be covered in the next level. Why? Because I'll tell you, there is a scenario. There is an application. It could be in your AWS or it could be outside of AWS. Okay. It wants to access some services in your AWS right now. This is an application. For example, oh, capital letters. Yeah. Some application. Don't ask me what kind of application it is. Some application. It could be inside your AWS or maybe outside of AWS. Now it wants to access your some AWS service. Let us say S3 itself. Maybe it's for some data to get stored or some particular data to get downloaded. Because it is a storage, right? I might want to store some particular image in the S3 from this application. Someone is uploading, right? So when it is uploading, it will not store in the application. Actually, in the backend, it will go to the storage, not even the database. This application is configured to get stored in the object storage. So if it wants to store into this S3, first of all, it should have permissions. First, it has to authenticate. Okay. So, and moreover, second thing is nothing but I want to configure authentication into this application. What is authentication? We call it as identity. How will you provide identity to this application? Either you have to develop by using SAML or OpenID or some particular protocols and tools are there where we can develop that. For example, you have Facebook. Facebook, you can log in, right? How we are getting that login page, how this verification is getting happened in the backend. Facebook has developed their own identity. Some particular applications, third party, let us say some application developers and all, they don't want to develop their own identity. They want to use some third party identities. Now, this application wants to use an identity of AWS for authentication. Okay. So what does it mean? Users will be created in AWS. Okay, let us say, I will explain now. A simple thing. First step, I'll write just this one as one. let us say 3. Okay. This is your identity provider, AWS IAM. Okay. Now, let us say you have tried accessing this application. You want to log into this application and you want to create some account. So what will happen beyond the scenes of this application is this application is dependent on AWS IAM. So your request will go to the AWS and it will get stored in this particular AWS IAM. For this application, who is the identity provider? AWS IAM. AWS IAM is your identity provider. We call it as IDP. So for this application, it doesn't have its own identity provider. It is dependent on AWS IAM or Azure Active Directory. Now it is called as Microsoft Entra ID. Different options we have. Okay. Now, after this particular user was created, tomorrow I want to log in. First, it will verify in this AWS IAM whether that user is valid or not. Then it will give a token. It will give token to that particular request. Now that token will be used to send some API call to this particular S3. Now this particular token will be received by this service and it will verify in the backend with this AWS whether this token is valid or not in the backend. Okay. So for this to configure, you have to know about identity providers. Okay. Use an identity provider to manage your user identity outside of AWS, but grant the user identity permissions to use AWS resource in the account. So you don't want to manage your users in your AWS IAM. Let us say I want to use some third party identity provider. Then you can go for this option. So later you will understand how to do this. We have an example scenario in Kubernetes. At the time I did in detail, I will explain what is this all about. Okay. For now, we will skip this particular topic as well. This one, identity providers and roles. What about account settings? Account setting is all about password policy. Technically, we call it as password policy. There are two things here. One is AWS policy or custom policy. By default, when you log into your AWS account, some people, if you have already logged in, go to account settings. Here you will see AWS with password minimum of 8 length character, 12 characters length. Password strength is required at least one uppercase, one lowercase, one number, one alphanumeric. Password expires in 30 days. All users can to change their own password. Prevent password reuse from past 3 changes. What is this all about? Let me explain. If I say edit, by default you will see IAM default. In IAM default, what are the features of password policy? Password minimum length has to be 8 characters. That's all. Sometimes the lesser the size of the password, more the vulnerabilities. We can say security issues. Okay. So that's the reason password length has to be changed. Minimum not 8. In my organization, if someone is trying to configure some password in the AWS console of my account, I want the passwords to be minimum 12 characters or 10 characters or 11 characters or more than 12. If you want that, you have to go to custom. Second thing is password strength. Password strength is all about at least one uppercase letter, lowercase letter, combination of this one, right, is called as password strength. More the combinations, more the stronger the password to get hacked. Okay. So it should be combination of all uppercase, lowercase, numbers, alphanumeric, non-alphanumeric characters, those. Other requirements are password will never get expired, but that is a security breach. Okay, that could violate your account, right? What does it mean? If someone knows a password, even after 1 year of your AWS account, he can log in. That should not be the case, right? If you see your banking accounts, net banking and all, they'll ask you to reset the password for every 3 months. That is all about this option. We can change it. I will tell you how to change it. Okay, must not be identical to your account name and email address. Okay, that's fine. Your password should not be identical to your email address, account name, and all. That's what it is trying to say. That's fine. Yeah. But I'm not satisfied with this particular password policy. It is not matching with my organization requirement. I want to change this. I want to use my own custom password policy. Then you have to go to the second option. In this, you can see I have selected long back, minimum 12 characters. What does it mean? Whenever someone is trying to set some password for the AWS account, in my account actually, okay, so minimum the password length has to be 12 characters. It can be minimum 12 or more than 12. So always the value that you're passing here is minimum length. I gave 12 characters, but minimum can be from 6 to 128 characters max. The range has to be in between these two. Next one is password strength. You can see this checkbox is enabled. What does it mean? At least you need to give one uppercase letter. This checkbox is enabled. What does it mean? Minimum you have to give one lowercase letter. Obviously, we'll give this. Next one is required at least one number. We try to do that. Sometimes we don't have a habit of giving the numbers. But here I said it is required. Okay, it will verify when you're trying to create some password. In the backend, AWS will verify whether it is matching the policy or not. If not, it will reject, obviously. And then require at least one non-alphanumeric character. Nothing but these. Whatever it is written in here, you can give only this particular non-alphanumeric characters. Others are not allowed. Okay. Next one is other requirements, additional options. Apart from password minimum length, apart from password strength, other options. What is that? Turn on password expiration. Here I'm requesting my users in my account to reset their password for every 90 days. Nothing but 3 months approximately. Also, every 3 months they have to reset the password. Minimum we can give 1 or 1095 days. Minimum 1 day we will not give it, right? Means what? Every 1 day you have to reset the password. That is not an appropriate approach. Some organizations will ask you to reset for every 1 month or every 2 months or every 3 months, according to the policy what they are following in their organization. I can't say that everybody will use 90 days. No, it depends. And then password expiration requires administrator reset. Why this option is not enabled? What could be the challenges? Any guess? If I enable this option, what could be the challenges? You might have seen in customer care support, sometimes you will call, you will ask them. Nowadays, we are not asking it because everybody was given to reset their own passwords. In any website you would see. Why this option is not enabled? Any specific reason?
The administration work will be more like
Yeah, exactly. So for each and everything, we have to contact the administrator or the person who has administrative access, right? So what is that problem? What is the problem with that? Burden, okay, dependency, all these things will be there, right? So delay also. You have some agency of work, you are not able to log into your account. You can reset your own password. But instead of that, if I rely on administrator, I have to create some support ticket, wait for the response, communicate, and then have to reset the password, right? It's a lengthy process. So to avoid all these things, I don't want people to rely on me. So this option got disabled. I want to allow the users to reset their own password. This is important. If you don't want to enable this, please enable this one. And then last one is prevent password reuse. You already know about this. What does it mean? Once you have used one password, you can't use the same password in second time and third time. Since I've selected 3. When the fourth time, when I'm trying to reset the password, at that time I can use the first password. Same password. Okay. So that is called as remembering the passwords. You might have seen in the banking sectors. Obviously, they'll not allow you to use same password again when you're trying to reset. They'll ask you to give a new password. Okay. So if you want to set like this for your AWS account, for the users to set their passwords, you can create a custom password policy. Is that clear with my points or any confusion part in this? It's almost relevant to your day-to-day activities.
Yeah, it's clean.
Clear, right? Okay. Now save the changes. Now the question which I will ask you, what has been asked to me in interview. What will happen to, see, you have saved this particular policy right now. what will happen to the existing users? For new users, this policy will be applied. What will happen to the existing users? His password is already 8 characters or 6 characters. He's not using any uppercase letter or lowercase letter. His password is never expired earlier. Now what will happen? Search and let me know. Wherever you search, it is up to you, whether official document or any third-party tools and all. Search and let me know what will happen to the password policy when you change to the existing users. That's my question. I'll write it in the classroom as well. So that you can check later. Okay. Seems to be easy, but little bit tricky.
By default, 90 days will be there, right? So like after like 3 months, it will be like anyway, it will ask for the reset password. Then it will go to the new one, right? The policy, what you said.
Okay. Let us say you have created this user long back. Or I'll tell you one more scenario since you're talking about this one. Okay. I'll go to edit. Now I will change it to 8 characters. The password expiry, I will change it to 60 days. Then I will say save changes. What will happen?
This will still, look for like 12, right? You change right now, right? Take capital time, right? Previous users.
Let us say he has already crossed 61 or 62nd day, and now we have changed it to 60th day to reset their passwords. Now I'll say save. What will happen to that user?
When the user logs in again, then it would ask him to make the changes.
Immediately?
Yeah, because like today, it's already 60 days, right? Like after 60 days, if I'm logging, because I have that situation when I went to India and came back, and then my password is expired because I went for some days and then I came back. So it can happen, right? Like I did,
That's all.
it happen like.
Yeah, that's an answer. No need to create a question. Okay. As simple as that. So now onwards, it will apply the policy to the existing user as well. So if he has crossed, or if he has some time, when he is trying to do that action in the next time, it will try to apply this policy. Okay. That's all about it. Simple thing.
But until that 90 days is not done, so that's still that play to the old one, right?
Yeah, obviously it will continue. He will continue with the old password itself. Okay. Check out and let me know. Can we forcefully ask the people to reset the password?
Okay.
Let's say I have existing users. Until they reach 90 days, I don't want to allow them. I want immediately for the users to forcefully reset their password. Is there any approach? My question is valid, right?
Yeah.
Then
So
what
you
you will
wait.
say?
We can delete one of the access key and we can
See,
create
that is a
new
manual. See, if you have 1,000 users in your organization,
access.
how will you do that?
When you log in again, then it will ask. Like for example, whenever that happens, right? Whenever you log in, that's when it asks you to reset.
No. I mean to say, let us say out of 1,000 users in my organization and the account, for the 60 users, the password to get expired, we have some days. Let us say I select a 90 rate. They're running in 62nd day or 63rd day and all. Earlier it is 70 days. I change it to 90 days right now. Until they reach 90 days, I don't want to allow them to use their old password with the minimal characters. I want to forcefully ask to change them. You got the point, right?
Yeah.
So what you will do in that scenario? Find out and let me know.
The expires can be make it minimum one.
But it will affect everybody, right?
Whoever is impacted, they will be asked to reset the password. Out of 1,000 people, only the
Yeah, that's
60
what.
people.
You have many
whoever-
people over there, not a single user. Out of 1,000 employees, I have 600 employees who is having that particular issue. So I want forcefully to reset them. Think of it. Let me know by tomorrow. Not necessary now. Okay. Then root access management, we can see there is a new option here. This needs an organization level. In AWS, we have something called AWS organization. Now, this particular feature will be available only when you enable in your AWS account with AWS organization. We'll discuss that on Saturday. What I will plan is some topics which I couldn't discuss here, but still I want to explain you guys the some important topics. I'll teach them on Saturday. I will take a session like 1.5 hours or 2 hours. It is up to you whether you join it or not. A recording will be done and that will be shared to you. Okay. So I'll discuss these kind of topics which I couldn't cover in the regular classes, what I have. Okay. Example is root access management, organization, AWS organization. Okay. So next thing is we have to talk about compute. Sorry.
So like this user setup and everything will be for the console access, or whoever using the users the EC2 instance, that also applicable.
I didn't
Like
get you.
the user setup, user password
Mhm.
policy, you changed it. So this this policy will be applicable for the uh, users whoever using the dashboard
No,
or console or whole. I mean, whoever using the application team, whatever it is, every user it will be the same.
obviously, see, whatever the users you have created from here,
Mhm.
for all the users, it will get affected. But is it console access or programmatical access? Who will get affected?
So
There is console. The
Mhm.
password policy is whom for whom? That is for console access, right? The
Mhm.
people who will try to access from the browser. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you know. Let me explain
So
in detail.
I have a user if app in EC2. I have an application running that is a user ABC is
That's
there.
different. That is
That
application
is diff.
specific user, right?
Okay. Those
That
users will
is
not be
no,
visible
those will
here.
not get affected because that is managed by application. Here we are not even talking about this application. I'm talking about if someone wants to access this AWS account, my AWS account, with their credentials in the management console through management console. What is an expiry? Password, age, everything you can set there.
Ah, okay, yeah, I got it now. And can I create two groups? Like one group have this kind of rules, or this group have this kind of rules, or
Obviously, you
uh,
can. Let us
uh,
have a DevOps team. I will attach certain permissions to this particular DevOps team. I have a development team. I'll give only a few permissions to the development team. What are the services they want to access and what are the actions they
I'm not
want to do.
talking about the permission. I mean, talking about the permissions. The user password policy. I mean, what
No,
you
no,
said now.
that is
It's
not available.
once you set it for that is for all users.
All
Actually, there is no
users.
group policy here.
No, no, no. Group is not a policy. Groups are not meant for identity, right? Groups are not called as identity. Identity in the sense what? Who tries to authenticate is called as identity. The identity could be what? Any examples? Does anyone know? Identity. Person who tries to authenticate. Not person, sorry. The thing that tries to authenticate is called as identity. Who could be the identity? Any examples?
Mm,
Identity, I mean, you can say, like, for example, like you are using right now, as you mentioned, like AWS, right? In
Human
identity, like,
beings. User.
yeah.
Next.
And we use like some robotic also you will be using, right? Like,
Devices.
yeah,
Technically.
yeah.
Devices. OTPs, all these things, right? All these are authentications. So these are called as identities. Okay. Group is not an identity. It is only to manage permissions for group of users who are added to that group. It is not meant for authentication. First of all, I think this point I've covered in the starting session itself. Anyways,
sorry, I missed it. Maybe.
yeah, now you got the point right. Group
Yes,
is
sir.
not meant for authentication. He cannot log into the AWS console or he cannot access any AWS console or not only console. We cannot access AWS through any medium. Since we have discussed that point, let me tell you. what are the methods we have in order to access AWS? One is, what is it? Does anyone know before I talk about it?
Credential, right? Like, is it
One
basically
is AWS Management Console, right? For this, what are the things that we need to have for the
ID
user?
and password.
Username, password. First of all, we need to enable console access to that user.
yes.
Okay. While you're creating user, you have to set that right. You have to enable this one. If I don't enable, can I create a user?
No, no.
Maybe you can create a user, but he cannot access this dashboard.
Okay. Any other answers?
We need to create IAM user, right? Then only you can able to access right consultant through IAM.
Forget about console. I'm trying to say that in order to access AWS, management console is one method.
Okay.
Let's say I'm a human being right now. Visually, I want to do some action. So obviously, I will go for management console. That is a manual task. I'm saying, like, without doing this, is there any other way that we can create a user for other purpose? Forget about the purpose. Can I create a user without enabling this option?
Maybe yes, but I don't know how.
No.
Yes, we can. That is called as programmatical access.
You mean like when CLI to CLI?
Exactly. CLI, REST API call, or SDK, software development toolkit, right? So what about your CLI? Let us say I want to run some AWS CLI command in order to do some action on AWS. How will you provide? That is not a human being, right? It's just a program. It runs some API calls in the backend, REST API calls. In those conditions, how they will authenticate to your AWS? By using user. But when you say user, will you provide username, password? No. Okay. In those conditions, we use keys. What are those called? You can see access through access keys. What are those access keys? Let me tell you today. Okay. You got the point, right? What I'm trying to say? Methods of accessing your AWS. Okay. Not AWS Management Console, AWS. One is Management Console. Another one is AWS CLI.
So how to get? I mean, you raised the right point. Okay, like I mean, so far we talked about only the management console. Okay, if I just want to CLI, so from my terminal level we can able to connect.
Yes,
because
exactly.
the URL only, right? So I don't know what is IP I'm going to connect because it's not easy to instance or anything we created, right? So,
No. For example, I have a system.
Okay.
From that system, I want to access my AWS. What you will do? That is not your easy to instance, right? My system, it could be MacBook, it could be PC, it could be mobile phone, or it could be anything, right? But I want to access my AWS. Access AWS, it's not only dashboard, right? We have other methods as well. The one which I'm talking about right now. See, for example, Windows. Okay, in Windows, if I want to see the IP address details and all, you'll open some particular console. Maybe I can say network. I'm not sure about this too much
CMD
about
just
this one.
CMD you could do IP config.
You can see this is my network Wi-Fi. I can see the details. Like let us go to properties. Here I can see some IP address details and all. Right? This is one method. What is this called? GUI.
Yeah, GUI method. Yeah.
Okay. Here I'm calling it as dashboard. Console.
Okay.
Okay. This is more of an interaction. UI interaction. UI, user interface. Okay. What about if I open the command prompt? Okay, in the operating system. Here, can I use UI? No, you have to run only commands. Through the commands, if I want to see the network details on my system, I have to know the command first. Let us say I know the command. I will type it IP config. Is it able to contact my operating system? Yes. And I'm able to fetch the data. I'm saying these are the two methods what you have in order to interact with your operating system and fetch the data. One is visually, one is through programmatically. So this is programmatical access, what I mean to say.
Okay.
Got it? Or any confusion part from anyone?
So those for AWS CLI, we need to configure those parts right in the system.
Yes. First, what you have to do, if you are planning to run AWS CLI commands from your system, there you have to install the CLI package. Okay, package has to be installed. How to install that package on Windows system? Let me show you. First of all, install. If you search with this particular sentence, you will get official document. I'll share this in the WhatsApp, sorry, not WhatsApp group, sorry, classroom. Okay. On which system you want to install this CLI? Is it Linux? Is it Mac? Or is it Windows? In my case, what I have to select? Windows. Okay, these are the requirements. You need to have minimum Microsoft supported version with 64-bit operating system. Admin rights. Then what you need to do? Here it is asking you to download and run AWS CLI MSI installer for Windows 64-bit. For that, what it is saying you, alternatively, you can run this particular command on the CLI. It could be command prompt or you can use PowerShell. It is up to you. Okay, so let me copy this and run that. It is better. I will open the command prompt first, copy paste, enter. You can see what is this called? Setup wizard. We call it as setup wizard. AWS management console. You can see AWS CLI console. Next, accept, next, next, install. Here we have to give yes or no. We will ask for administrative privileges. So give yes. I gave it. You can't see it actually. I gave yes. If you don't want this kind of thing, you can directly run on the PowerShell as administrator. So wherever you are planning to run AWS CLI commands, there you have to install the CLI package, AWS CLI. And the latest one is version 2.
Mobile XM won't work. So that's
No.
it. Mobile XM.
In mobile
No,
XM, no, you can't run AWS CLI commands.
Okay.
I mean to say, like if you open mobile XM, right? If you open start local terminal, here I can
Okay.
run the command. It is nothing but your Windows.
Yeah.
Got it right?
Yeah, right.
Here, let me run
Anyway,
AWS command. You can see.
anyway, for Linux and all, mobile XM or remote remote ng or something we'll use, right? PuTTY or something.
Yes.
So that there also we
Mobile
can
XM we are using to contact other remote systems.
Correct. For Linux
Now,
and all, we are going to use that only, right?
exactly. You can see AWS version that got installed in your system. You can see on your Windows system, AWS CLI got installed with this version 2.27.25. Does anyone know what is 2, what is 27, what is 25?
Minor and major and manufactured.
Okay, this is major version, this is minor version, and this is called as patch version. Okay, so technically to know the points, that's the reason. Major.
Why do we want the CLI?
Why?
Because here we can execute.
Sorry, I'm missing your word. Maybe it is some my side problem. There is.
What she's saying is like we have a GUI and why we want the command line also.
Okay.
Maybe.
See, every time we can't rely on the GUI. Let us say you are writing some Python script, or let us say I'm writing a shell script. How the shell script will interact with your dashboard? It's not a human being, right? First of all, whether you run a script or when you run a program, are they human beings? No. What they are called? Program, right? They run some particular program and that program will try to do some calls. Those are called as API calls. Okay. So when the program is trying to do this particular task, it's not a human being. So what I have to do? I have to install this AWS CLI. So I will run AWS CLI commands inside that script. That's all. You got it or still confused?
So do you have a cheat sheet for this one? Like, I mean, whatever we create in console, right? Like the user add, group policy, and inline.
No. That cannot be done because it will get changed and it is a risky task. That
Oh.
documentation is not there. No. You have to practice only by looking at the videos. That's all.
So then can we
Anyways.
create policy here with the help of emergency airline?
Exactly. We can. What are the actions you have done till now in AWS or in future? Whatever you're doing here, that can be done here as well. But the only thing is you have to know the options. What options have to pass? For example, I want to interact with IAM. So what is the service it is? IAM. If you want to know what are the options I need to pass for this IAM, -FN help. Sorry, not -FN help, just help. It will open the documentation. You can see there what is IAM, available commands. For example, I want to create a group. So create group. I want to create a role. Create a role. I want to create a policy. These are sub commands. I want to create a user. Then what I will say, AWS, IAM, create user, and then you have to pass some options to this. Let us say I don't know. Again, you will give help. You can say for create user, we have these many options. I think, yeah. Add user to a group, attach role policy, change password of the user. We have this option. Okay. This is what it is. If you really want to create a user, let us say I will say something like demo user. Oh, sorry. Create user, spelling mistake. It is asking, you can see the following argument are required. Okay, -FN, user, name. But here it will fail. Why? This command got failed.
You are not authenticated, I guess.
Clearly.
You're not connected, right?
Exactly.
You are not connected to your account.
Yes. Why? Because when I'm running this command, in the backend, it has to run some API calls to my AWS account. First of all, in my system, from where I'm trying to communicate, I don't have credentials. Without having credentials, how will you authenticate? This is not a password-based authentication. It is token-based authentication. Okay. For a user, we can use password-based authentication or token-based authentication. Now, coming back to the actual point, since I don't want to give the console access, I want to give only token, nothing but access key-based authentication. I will not enable that option. For example, demo user. Oh, not demo user. Okay. I have existing user, right? What you guys can do is create user. Don't select this option. Follow the steps. Permissions. If you want, you can attach, and then you can create a user. You guys can do that. Let me try to use an existing user. I'll just log out from this user, which is not necessary. For this existing user, I want to disable the console access. Till now, for the way to tech stack user, I have given the console access. If I want to remove the console access for this user as the administrator, what I have to do? Select the user, go to the security tab, security credentials tab. Here we can see manage console access. Select that and you can say disable console access. What is this option? You know what is disable console access by now? What does it mean? The user cannot access from the console. That's the meaning of it. What about this one? We have already seen this. For example, let's say this user has already logged into AWS dashboard. Okay. I want to forcefully log out that user. Then we can say revoke. Okay. And then revoke older sessions. You can see these are the permissions what it is trying to do. Or now it is not necessary and say disable access. Now if I try to access to that particular account, let's see what happens. It should not allow me to log in. Okay. First of all, account ID, then username. These are new points what I'm discussing today. What I couldn't cover yesterday. You can see authentication failed. Password is valid. The authentication information is incorrect. That's what it is trying to say. Got it? So this is called as disabling the console access.
One question.
Any confusion part until here?
One question. Okay, like
Yep.
right now you use the IAM user, right? Because you
Yes.
disable the console access for IAM user, but your root user is still
Root
working,
account
right?
cannot be disabled. No. See, he's a root access, right? If you disable him, how will you log into your AWS account?
Through console, we come in like from CLI, we can do that.
How? Root user we can't disable, first of all.
Okay.
Okay. And it should never be done. Let us say you want access billing graphically. If you disable like that, what will happen?
Yeah,
You
that is
cannot write. So you should never do your experiments on root account. That should not be done. Only for the root account, what we should not do, programmatical access should not be enabled. That is so important. If you go here, root user has no active access keys, which is nothing but programmatical access. That should not be there. That's what AWS is recommending. You have to enable only console access for root account. Programmatical access should not be enabled for root account. It should be done only for IAM users. Got it right?
Yeah.
See, don't compromise with the answer. If you are not understood, please let me know. Root account should be allowed only with console access. We should not allow with programmatical access. He should not perform any AWS CLI actions. Simple.
Yeah.
That's recommended from AWS. If you want, you can do it, but it is not at all recommended. Something that is not recommended, organization will not follow it until unless it is really needed. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. If you really want to do some actions on AWS through CLI, why you want to do it only through root account? You can create IAM user and let that user do the actions, whatever you want from the CLI. Is it really needed only by root? Not right. That's the reason.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have disabled the console access. You can see here. Again, if I want to enable, you can just see this. How to give a programmatical access? First, you will create a user. Here we can see access key, secret key. This is called as access keys. Who can use this access keys? Use access keys to send programmatical calls to AWS from where? AWS CLI, AWS tools for PowerShell, AWS SDK, or direct API calls. Direct API calls in the sense REST API calls, like this one. I'll show you. AWS REST API document. Not everybody will understand, but just try to understand the concept. Forget about how we can do it. REST API call in the sense we will run some curl command, right? And we will pass some inputs. I just want to show you one example. REST API call. We will pass some inputs, other details and all. Okay. For example, I don't have here. Sample example. Okay. Let me show you one sample.
You can use the weather call, right? That's a REST API. Right?
Yeah, REST API call. That's it. Just I'll show you. We will pass some REST API call, means curl, HTTPS, URL. We'll pass some data and we'll send this code. Then it will start creating it. That is called as REST API call. Okay. So it is saying you that either we can use that. In those scenarios also we can use programmatical access. For the programmatical access for you to do on a user level, first you have to create a user. That is for sure. Without creating a user, you can't use a programmatical access. For now, remember this. Now, after you created a user, for this user, if you want to enable programmatical access, you have to create an access key. For one single user, how many access keys you can create? Maximum only 2. Either it is active or inactive. For a single user, you can create only 2 access keys maximum. So first you have to create CLI access. You have to acknowledge. Next, Give a description. It is up to you. Let us say, since it is from my Windows system, I'm giving some dummy name and create. Now this is your access key, secret key. Remember, this is like a username and this is like a password. We should never expose this particular secret access key to anyone because they can do the actions on behalf of you. Problem, right? For example, if I share my username password to someone, they will log into the AWS console on behalf of me. Similar to that, if I share this access key and secret key to someone, they will run the REST API calls on behalf of me. Right? Both are security violations. So let me copy this. How I need to share it? Sorry. How I need to store it in my system? Either you can do it manually or we can run the command AWS config. Okay, enter. Sorry. Configure. My bad. AWS configure. What you are trying to configure? Credentials. One is it is asking you to give AWS access key ID. Let me give that. Next one is AWS secret access key. Since I've already stored long back some old access key secret key, I'm able to see it. If you are doing for the first time, it will not show you anything like this in the braces. Simple thing. Copy that and store it. It is asking you in default which region you want to do these actions. When I'm running some CLI, on which region you want to do these actions. By default, it is set to, in my case, AP South 1. Nothing but Hyderabad. AP South 1, I think Mumbai. If you want to keep it as it is, leave that. Or if you want to do any actions in any other region, if you see, you can see US East 1, North Virginia, US East 2, Ohio. Every region will have a code that is called as region code. AP South 1 is Mumbai. Okay, let me go with that. Or you have to type like this. Default output, no, format, enter. What happened? Now this particular details are stored in your system. It is stored in my system. Where? C drive, under my users, my username. Here it will create a hidden directory called .aws. Under that you can see credentials. Inside this, it will store your access key and secret key. This is called as default profile because we can store more than one credentials in your single system. Okay, but every credentials will get segregated by using a profile name. Whenever you try to store your credentials for the first time with the no parameters, it will store with a default name. What is access key? That value. Secret key, that value. Okay, we can see config data. Nothing but region name. Other additional details will get stored in the config. Credentials will get stored in the credentials, like access key and secret key. Let us say, unfortunately, you have deleted this one. What will happen? Let's say you have deleted from your system. What will happen?
Again, we need to reconfigure it.
Again, you can configure. That's it. Okay, but the problem is, it is not as easy what the statement have passed. Once you have came out of this, you cannot see the secret access key. You can see only access key. We can't see the secret access key. It is only one time visible when you have created.
Okay.
So again, you have to delete and create a new one. Okay, got it right? When you have last used this particular access key, none, because just now we have created, right, 3 minutes ago. You have never used this particular access key as of now. Okay, last used region, last used service. It will let you know what is your last used time, last used region, last used service. Okay. Now, since you have already configured credentials, until this, is that clear? I'll wind up the session in 2 or 3 minutes. That's all. Okay. Now let me run AWS. I've configured authentication details for my system. I'm hoping that I can contact my AWS account. So AWS IAM, let us say list users. What happened right now? Tell me. It got failed. but it is not one issue got resolved, but we got another issue. What is that? Any
Because we
guess?
gave authentication, right? Authorization we didn't give, right?
Yeah. Authentication is
Policy is not
successful. Authentication is
list user
successful, but I don't have permissions to
Yeah.
do the action on what list users because I don't have any policy, right?
Proceed. Yeah.
Now let me try to give one policy. I will go for IAM, read-only access. If you watch this video once again, you will understand. Okay,
Mhm.
each and every point. You can see I got both the user details. Simple. Within seconds, the issue got resolved. If you have given a proper permissions. That's it.
You gave through console right now, right? But you didn't give through console. I mean CLI, right?
I'm able to see the details. No. Policy doesn't matter whether it is a CLI. It doesn't worry about that. Policy doesn't care whether you are doing it from CLI, whether you are doing it from SDK, whether it is from application side, whether it is from CLI side or console side. It doesn't matter. Policy just will verify after the authentication is done. Then it will verify what actions are allowed to you. Or you can perform only those actions. For example, if I try to create a user, it will fail.
No.
If a name, let us say demo list. You can see I don't have access to create user.
But
It is not authorized to perform IAM create user on which resource? User resources. Clearly, it is giving you all the information in a detailed way from the AWS CLI.
yeah, I understand. But my question is also like, I mean, like, can we whatever we got this policy issue, right? Can we give the policy from the CLI? Is it possible?
Yes, we can because, but do you have the permissions to attach policies? Your
No.
access key, secret key, whatever you have stored for the user, did he have the permissions to create a policy, to attach a policy?
No.
If you have, you can do that. If you don't have, you can't do that. Simple. Imagine who is doing this particular task, what permissions he has. He can do only that actions, whatever we have done from the console. Same thing. Here we are passing the command. Here we are using a UI. That's the only difference. Same like your Windows system and the Linux system, what we learned in the previous sessions, right? Similar to that. Not to get confused. Simple example. You are using personal system Windows as part of GUI. We are learning about Ubuntu operating system, which is a CLI. But both are operating systems and both can be interacted to do some actions on the hardware.
No.
What is the advantage of having this code? Because we can do it in the
If you have a requirement when you're writing some program, in that program, I want to contact my AWS and do some particular action as part of that particular task, then you have to add this particular AWS CLI as part of that automation. See, when you're using some CI/CD pipelines or when you're using some automation scripts, we can't use management console. We have to use only CLI. Either we can use REST API call or we can use AWS CLI. AWS CLI also will run some REST API call in the backend, but instead of we passing the REST API call with all the details, we are using a CLI. Because here we just need to pass some commands and options. That's it. Because whatever you're doing from the console is not an automation task. It's a manual task. When you're doing from automation, obviously we have to use REST API calls or CLI or SDK approach. That is for sure. You'll come to know this one by one after in progress of each and every topic that I discuss in future. Now, if I need to remove the credentials, you can remove that file. For now, I will disable this access key and secret key, or you can remove them. In my case, I want to remove. But if you need to remove this, first you have to deactivate. Then only we can remove it. If I deactivate, look at this one right now. I can't even run this command. You can see invalid token. It will show as if it is authentication issue, but technically it is not. You can see it looks like authentication issue, but the problem is in my system I already stored the credentials, but the problem is it is invalid client token ID. Then you have to verify, is your credentials are there or not? Is it active or not? You have to verify as part of the troubleshooting. You can see last used 5 minutes ago, which region you have contacted, US East 1, which service you have contacted, IAM. I can see that information.
So all history will be saved here, or like who are all accessed, are currently trying to
That
access.
if you need to see that, you have to go for last accessed.
Okay.
What are the activities you have done till now, till today? You can see that from this user, whether it is from console or whether it is from programmatical access. What actions you have done, which service you have accessed, everything will be shown here. Let me delete them. Once it is inactive, I can delete. So as a confirmation, we have to give the access key and then delete. I'll do one thing. Go back and practice whatever I've taught till now. If you have any questions, tomorrow we can discuss in detail about this one. Okay. I'll remove this permissions. Once my practice is done, I'm trying to delete them. Okay. I'll give this document in the classroom.
Can I configure 2 users?
Sorry?
Can I configure 2 users? You configured
Yeah,
one
yeah, you
user,
can.
right?
You can. While you're trying to configure, let us, you will type this command, right? Don't give like this. What will happen?
It will take what is the default one it is there, I guess.
It will override the default credentials what you have already stored. If I want to store it as another profile, and you have to give some name to that profile.
Okay.
Then what will happen? Let us say I gave some
That will
name.
be
It will create it as
that
another
will
profile. Like this.
Yeah.
For example, I'm saying. Let
the
us
name,
say
right?
Sudhams. I gave a profile name as Sudhams. Then here I will say access key and secret key. Like this. Example I'm showing you. Like this. Now, this is one thing. For the question what you have is continuation of it. I'm saying if I want to run the command by using a specific profile, then you have to pass profile. Let us say I want to use Sudham's profile to do that activity, not by using default. Then you have to pass it like this.
Fine.
Got it right?
Yeah, got it. This makes sense.
That's all for today, guys. If you have any questions, you can ask me now, or else we can wind up the session for today.